Hi, I'm Susan Lee and welcome to Advanced Voice Workout for the Actor. The first tape in this series provides a full-body voice warm-up to be done regularly by the actor, much the same way a singer performs vocalises or scales. This tape takes you to the next logical step of concentration, breathing and projection. Like the first tape, this one contains a series of exercises done in real time so that you can work right along with us. Be sure to consult your physician before starting this or any exercise program, and always work at your own pace. Before we begin, I'd like to talk a little bit about breathing, but in future viewings of this tape, you could fast forward to the relaxation section and begin there. Vocal production is instinctual, unlike speech, which is a learned behavior. We were born with all the apparatus and knowledge to produce sound. We rarely run out of breath in normal conversation and rarely have problems being heard even in adverse conditions. So what goes wrong on stage? Why do we feel that breathing and projection on stage are foreign ideas that require special training? I don't believe that voice for the stage requires special training as much as special awareness. It's a variation of something we already know how to do very well. We just need to get out of our own way so that we can do it. First of all, briefly, let's go over some of the mechanics of breathing. Very simplistically, the rib cage forms a cylinder that encloses the lungs. These ribs are held together by intercostal muscles that open the ribs to increase the size of the chamber. The bottom of the chamber is formed by a sheath of muscle called the diaphragm. At rest, the diaphragm is slightly dome-shaped. When the body needs air, the diaphragm contracts and flattens downward. At the same time, one set of muscles, the intercostal muscles, move the ribs out and up. The ribs are shaped very much like the handle of a sand pail. Any movement out means that they will go up a bit as well. The muscles in the stomach relax so that the internal organs in that area can move downward a bit. All of these actions create a larger space in this cylinder. This, in turn, creates a vacuum. The air pressure on the outside of the body is greater than inside, and air is drawn into the lungs automatically. During the exhalation, the process reverses. Everything releases and allows air to escape. Now, at this point, the body can make use of the breath for the secondary function of voice, producing sound by vibrations in the larynx. Where this process usually goes wrong for us on stage is way at the beginning, even before the inhalation, with the initial idea or stimulus for the breath. Your mind automatically calculates the amount of breath needed to express an idea. When you are startled, there's a gasp or quick inhalation in preparation for a scream. If you need someone's attention, no matter how far away they are, or even out of sight, your body makes the adjustment on its own. If you are really trying to communicate to that person, you don't think about the breathing process before you yell for someone. Well, on stage, if you can keep the exchange of ideas that simple and the communication that direct, your body will know what to do if you are warmed up and relaxed. Too easy? Let me tell you a story. One way to teach a small child how to project is to use a puppet. You begin with the child saying his lines to the puppet as you hold it very close. Gradually, you and the puppet move further away, still asking the child to talk to the puppet. At some point, if the child begins to shout, you ask him not to yell at the puppet, but just to talk to him. The amazing thing is that without training, the child can make the necessary adjustments. When you ask him not to yell, he relaxes lots of muscles automatically and begins projecting instead. If we only could keep our minds this uncluttered on stage, it would be this easy for us. But we begin to fret and worry about any number of things. Costumes, dialects, new blocking, the list goes on and on. In all of this, we often forget to give the basic impulse our body needs. What am I trying to say? To whom am I trying to say it? And how far away from me are they? Without this information, the body gets confused and breathing is interfered with. Vocal production for theater, just like any other physical task, requires some effort. Effort is necessary to lift something heavy, to push a door open, to carry groceries, even to play a game of tennis. This physical work can be done the hard way by holding one's breath and tensing muscles, but with practice we soon learn to relax and use the breath and body to perform such tasks more easily and economically. Using the voice on stage is no different than any of these physical tasks. With practice, the actor can learn to freely connect his breath and body to the words. In addition, it helps to have a body whose breathing musculature is already relaxed and in good tone so it can respond well to the right stimuli. So first we'll begin with some relaxation exercises and then follow with some new stretches for the ribs and breathing. In order to experience relaxation, you must first experience tension and then learn to let it go. We'll go through the body and tense, then relax the major muscle groups to build this awareness. When you first lie down, check to see that you are symmetrical. Then close your eyes. Rotate your legs in and out and let them fall open to the sides. Do the same with your arms. Then rotate your head from side to side. Then imagine you are being stretched, that someone is gently pulling your head away from your feet, your shoulders away from your neck, your arms away from your shoulders, and your legs away from your pelvis. Let gravity embrace you. The weight of your body is pulling you deeper into relaxation, warming and melting your body into the floor. Now send your attention into your forehead. All at once you feel the muscles above your eyes tensing, contracting, causing deep, tight furrows in your brow. And your forehead feels very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make those muscles feel so tight. Release, relax, let the muscles once again go soft. Now send your attention into your whole face. All at once you feel the muscles of your face curling up around your nose like a tight fist. The muscles are tensing and contracting, making your face roll up into a ball around your nose. And your face is very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your face be so tight. Feel the muscles release, relax, and melt right off your face toward the floor. Now send your attention into the back of your neck. All at once you feel the back of your neck growing very short. The back of your neck is growing so short it's pulling the top of your head toward the floor as your head and neck become very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your neck feel so tight. Feel the muscles release, relax, and once again your neck lengthen from your shoulders. Now send your attention again into your neck and shoulders. All at once you feel your shoulders creeping up toward your ears, making your neck seem very short. You feel your shoulders creeping higher and higher toward your ears, and the muscles in your shoulders and neck becoming very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your shoulders be so tight. Feel them release, relax, and once again go soft, and allow your neck to grow long out of your shoulder girdle. Now send your attention into your arms and hands. All at once you feel your arms growing very stiff and straight. You feel the fingers of your hands curling up into tight, tight fists. You feel your arms becoming straight and stiff as steel rods, and the muscles in your hands and arms are very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your arms be so tense. Feel them release and relax. Feel your fingers uncurl and expose a soft palm to the ceiling. Then send your attention into your chest. All at once you feel your chest expanding. You feel your chest growing and expanding in all directions, growing larger and larger, but at the same time it is very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your chest be so large. Feel it release and relax and fall softly toward the floor. Then send your attention into your stomach. At first you feel your stomach becoming very flat. The muscles in your stomach are pulling in toward your spine, and at the same time becoming very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your stomach feel so tight. Feel it release, relax, and once again go soft. Now send your attention again into your stomach. All at once, this time, you feel your stomach expanding. You feel your stomach expanding and growing in all directions toward the ceiling and the walls, but at the same time becoming very, very tight, very, very tense. Now, with a sigh, just stop doing what you're doing to make your stomach feel so large. Feel the muscles release, relax, go soft as they fall toward the floor beneath you. Now send your attention into your hips, legs, and feet. All at once you feel your legs becoming very stiff, very straight. You feel your hip joints lock, your knees lock, your ankles lock as your feet flex and your toes pull toward the ceiling. Your ankles are flexing so tightly that it pulls your feet right up off the floor, and your legs and feet are very, very tight, very, very tense. Then just stop doing what you're doing to make your legs and feet be so tight. Feel them release, relax, rotate your legs a little bit, and wiggle your toes so that even the bottoms of your feet are now soft. Now send your attention into the back of your shoulders and into the back of your heels. All at once, you feel both your shoulders and your heels pushing into the floor. You feel your shoulders and heels pushing into the floor so hard that it makes the whole back of your body tense and stiff. Your body is so tight that it begins to arch and lift off the floor. It is very, very tight and very, very tense. Now gently just stop doing what you're doing to make your body feel so tight. Stop pushing into the floor, and once again feel all the muscles in the back of your body release, relax, and softly melt into the floor. We've gone through the major muscle groups in the body. We've put tension into them and then allowed them to relax. Now we will relax the inside of the body by taking 5 deep breaths together. And take the first deep, deep breath, and with a sigh, letting go now, letting go now, letting everything go. And a second deep, deep breath. Feel the air go down into your chest and up behind your face. And letting go now, letting go now, letting everything go. And a third deep, deep breath. Feel as if the inhalation could go all the way down toward your hips and down your arms, toward your elbows. And letting go now, letting go now, letting everything go. And a fourth deep, deep breath, bringing the air down past your knees, up toward the top of your head, and out toward your hands, and letting go now, letting go now, letting everything go. And the fifth and last deep, deep breath. Allow the air to go down to the soles of your feet, to the tips of your fingers, and the ends of your hair. And letting go now, letting go now, letting everything go. Good. Now, while we're just there and relaxed, let's observe your breathing. Place a hand over your breathing center. Observe the action of your breathing with your mind's eye. Don't control your breath, just observe. Notice the slow ebb and flow, much like the ocean. Allow your body to register the need to breathe. Then watch as your stomach rises, as the diaphragm descends, and the ribs expand as the air comes into the chamber. There is a slight hesitation, and then the body lets go, relaxes completely on the inside, and releases the extra air. It's an easy process, relaxed and effortless. Now take a deeper breath this time, and when ready, release the air with a sigh. Good. Wait for the need to breathe in between, and this time an even larger breath, followed by a bigger sigh. Just let the sound fall out. Good. Then just let your breathing return to normal. And then slowly roll over onto your stomach without lifting your head, and place your forehead in your hands. In this position, return to the easy sighs, but now focus on the movement that happens in your back as the ribs expand. Feel this movement as your back opens up with the inhalation. Remember this sensation, as this is an area we will be focusing on in some stretches. Then gently, keeping in touch with easy sighs on the way up, slowly come to standing. First to all fours. Then pull your feet underneath you and release your buttocks to the ceiling. And roll up through your spine, your head coming up last. Let's start the stretching with Salute to the Sun. This is a common yoga sequence that limbers up the whole body and gets you breathing more deeply at the same time. It's 12 graceful positions performed as one continuous exercise. Stand tall, with feet together and hands in a prayer position. Make sure your weight is even over both feet. Exhale as you lower your hands slightly. Then inhale as you stretch your arms up and back over your head. Relax your neck. Exhaling, fold forward, placing your hands down near your toes. Gently release your knees if necessary. Then inhaling, stretch your left foot back, support with your hands, and lift your chin to look up. Exhaling, bring the other leg back, raising the hips to make a V, and briefly support your weight on your hands and toes. Look at the floor. Lower your knees, then your chest, and scoop through. Inhaling, lower your hips and look up. Legs are together and shoulders down. Exhaling, curl your toes under, raise your hips up into a V. Lower your heels in your head, keeping your shoulders relaxed. Inhaling, step forward with your opposite leg and place it between your hands and look up. Exhaling, bring the other leg forward and keep released forward, fingers near your toes. Then inhaling, stretch your arms up and back again over your head and relax your neck. Exhaling, once again return to the prayer position, then bring your arms to your sides and center. This is an excellent all-body stretch and can be repeated as many as 6 to 8 times. Now we will do it together 3 more times, so that you can have a good starting set of 4. Feet together and hands in a prayer position. Exhale and lower your hands. Inhale, stretch up and back. Exhale, fold forward. And inhale, stretch the left foot back. Exhaling, bring the other leg back. And scoop through. Inhaling, lower your hips and look up. Exhaling, raise your hips up into a V. Inhaling, step forward with your opposite leg. Exhaling, bring the other leg forward. Inhaling, stretch up and back again. And then exhaling, return to the prayer position. Now we will repeat it twice more, a little faster this time. Good, and remember to take a moment to relax your hands down by your sides and center in between. And then again, hands in prayer position. And scoop through. Inhaling, lower your hips. The opposite leg comes forward. And up and back last time. Go through the prayer position and then relax your arms to your side and center. Now we'll continue the stretches with the half moon. Stand with your feet comfortably spread. Place one arm in the small of your back and put the other hand on your head. Now lift your hand 6 inches, turn, and look at that elbow as you allow your torso to stretch in the opposite direction. And breathe into your ribs and sigh. Good, and up through center and reverse. Put the opposite arm in the small of your back. Place your other hand on top of your head. Raise that hand 6 inches. Turn and look at that elbow as you release your torso in the opposite direction. And breathe into your ribs and sigh. Good, and then come back up through center and release. Next, wrap both arms around your body in a big hug, walking your fingers together in the back. Now as you inhale, you want to expand in the back and pull those hands apart. And inhale and exhale. With a gentle sigh, walk your fingers back together. And inhale, pulling them apart. And exhale. Good. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed down for both actions. Let's do 5 sets together. And inhale. And exhale. Walk those fingers back together. Good. And inhale. And exhale. And inhale, breathe into your back. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. Good. And last time together. And inhale. And exhale. Walk those fingers back together and release. Good. Now next, sitting on the floor in a straddle position, you want to walk over to one leg and place your elbow in front of the knee, fingers under the ankle or grab your pants. The opposite arm goes up and around once, twice, opening the ribs. The third time you grab hold of those toes, turn your torso forward and look through your arms at the ceiling. If you're not able to grab hold, just keep your arm extended. And breathe and sigh. Good. Flex both feet as you do this and sit into your hips. And breathe into your ribs. Good. Then walk your hands over to the other side and repeat. Place the opposite elbow in front of that knee, fingers under the ankle. The opposite arm now goes up and around once and twice. The third time you grab hold of your toes or extend your arm. Turn your torso forward and look through your arms at the ceiling. Breathe and sigh. Breathe into your ribs. Good. And then release forward. Walk your hands to the center. Then push your legs together. And then rotate your legs a little bit to release the hip muscles. At this point, I would like to remind you that many of the stretches on the first tape can be used here because they focus on the ribs and the lower back. The side stretch, for instance, and all of the shoulder stand sequence are actually aimed at this area also. In addition, I'd like to show you how you can use a partner to increase the strength of some of these stretches. Let's continue on the floor with a 3-part series for the lower back. Please make sure you use moderation and gentleness in easing your partner into the stretch. First, extend your legs in front and check how stretched you are. Then, start with the soles of your feet together. Your partner encourages you to lengthen first and then release forward by using some of their body weight from behind. Their hands rest on the ground and they are always in control. Using sighs, the team breathes together. Then the person being stretched counts from 1 to 10 with an exhalation for each number. When 10 is reached, the other partner releases immediately.
5,
Palms to the ceiling.
6,
The idea is not to push your partner to the floor, but rather to keep them from bouncing back once they have released forward.
8, 9, 10.
Good, and then release. And your partner massages your lower back. And you get into the second position with the legs stretched forward.
1,
Once again, easy in your knees. Let your legs rotate out if that helps the stretch.
2, 3,
If at any time the stretch is too strong, you say 10 immediately and your partner could release.
4,
palms to the ceiling.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good, and release, massage the back in between. Remember to work at your own pace with your own partner. Then is the straddle position. Once again, palms to the ceiling, which enables you to release into the stretch.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Relax your neck forward.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good, and release. Partner massages your lower back once again while you recheck your stretch to see how much you've gained. Great. Next, you can both sit facing each other in a straddle. Feet on your ankles if you need to make adjustments for height differences. Hold hands or arms and slowly pull around full circles to give each partner a good stretch. Slowly at first. This is a strong stretch. This one is also pretty silly, so there usually is a little laughter as a side product. And you would go around about 4 or 5 times, making sound as you do. Great. Then, just as a transition to making more sound, one partner hangs over as the other partner first massages, then alternately slaps to increase the vibrations. The person hanging over lets the pitch fall into their head, and the sound just bounces all over. The person then alternately slaps up their back, down the arms. Make sure your knees are released. Your head and neck are just hanging loose. Then the partner massages your spine, starting at the base of the spine very gently with 2 fingers on the same hand as you roll up through your spine, encouraging you to respond where their hand is so that you slowly roll up, the head coming up absolutely last. All the way up to the top of their head, touch their hair so they feel tall. Now this feels very good, so I'm sure your partner will want you to rewind the tape to the start of this section and repeat the sequence for them at this point. The next section will focus directly on breathing, and we're going to use belts to give us some feedback. These are not exercises in rib reserve. We will not be holding the ribs out or keeping them extended. The belts will merely let us know when the ribs are actually moving. Place the belts tightly at the bottom of the rib cage. Then relax your hands by your sides and release your shoulders. Breathe in. Fill the lungs with air, not just the top, but the lower portion as well. As you do this, you'll feel the belt tighten as the ribs expand. Release the air and feel the belt once again get loose. Do this again. This time, feel the ribs expand all the way around to the back. Notice how the stomach releases forward to make room as the diaphragm moves down. And release with a sigh, and the belt then loosens as the ribs return. Let's continue in this way, but wait for the need to breathe. Let your body tell you when. Take a full breath. Fill the lower part of your lungs also, and then release. Continuing in this way, you will gain awareness of the rib action. Now for the first exercise. We will begin counting on the exhalations, increasing one number with each exhalation up to 10. And begin.
1. 1, 2.
Feel the ribs move out as you inhale.
1, 2, 3.
And releasing down as you exhale.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Easy in your stomach.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Relax your knees.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good. Easy in your shoulders.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And last time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good. Now with this next exercise, we will continue counting. See how long the air supply lasts naturally. Don't squeeze or push. And begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
Good. Don't push. Remember to stop at the natural place. Now, next, release the sound S on a slow, steady exhalation. Quietly and smoothly. Remember the ribs. Feel them move. Don't squeeze. Once you naturally run out of air. Good. That's it. Let's try that one again. Inhale, feel the belt against the ribs, and begin. Good. And for variety, you can try the letters of the alphabet next. If you reach the end of the alphabet, go ahead and begin again without a pause. And take a deep breath.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Next, you are ready to go on to text. Go easy. Replace breath as needed, using full breaths and active ribs and back. And begin.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by lone sea breakers and sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems.
You are now relaxed, stretched, and ready to work on your own text. And speaking on stage is doing work. Your body, once warmed up, will respond appropriately if given the right stimulus. Speaking to a theater of 500 will require more voice. Breath is the fuel of the body, but also of the voice. so, if you need more voice, you need more air. Your body knows this instinctively. Just include the fact that you need to speak not only to the actors on stage with you, but also to share these words with the audience of 500 or 5,000. And don't shout at them, just talk to them. Just think of the puppet story. Bend your knees, lower your center, and treat speaking on stage in the theater like doing work or playing a sport. If you were to help someone move a piano, you'd bend your knees and lower your center to perform the task. Waiting to return that serve in a tennis game, you get ready, bending your knees and getting centered. All the same skills are demanded of you on stage. Get your body ready to do the task, relax and breathe, and follow through with your voice. Good luck as you continue to improve your voice. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videotapes, please write to me, care of Theater Arts Video Library. I've received many letters and comments from my previous tapes that were very helpful in creating this one. Thank you. I'm Susan Lee for Theater Arts Video Library.
This episode is about acting from the actor's point of view. The actors we have chosen are all leading players in the medium in which they excel. As you will see, they have each achieved their reputation following different routes. John Bell's ambition to become an actor began at university.
I then joined the first Old Tote Company in 1963 and did a season with them, and then I realized I needed to learn about acting. So I got a British Council scholarship and went to England in 1964. I did 6 months there, learning the basics, which I kind of already knew, so I felt I didn't need to stay on much longer doing that. I was then invited to the Royal Shakespeare Company at Stratford to work with Michel Saint-Denis and a group of students working alongside the main company. I did that for 6 months, and then I was invited into the main company, where I worked for 5 years, playing smallish parts, understudying, and that's when I really learned what acting was, because I was working with a lot of very good actors, but Paul Schofield particularly was a heavy influence on me at that time. I worked with him a lot, and directors like Peter Hall and Trevor Nunn, John Barton, Peter Brook, and it was really by being in the plays, season after season, understudying, watching the really good actors at it night after night that I learned. But I'm still learning a lot, and I don't mean that in a very sort of facile sense. I'm learning the fundamentals as I go along, and I'm finding out about myself. more and more, and adapting my ideas about what acting is.
In my teens, when I was just doing fun-type acting, you'd go home and you'd think of a line, and how are you going to say that line, you know, what's the best inflection, more the superficial side of it, the technical side, which of course is necessary. But once I started the classes, I learned more, what is your objective in saying that line, and really meaning something when you say that line, not just saying the line. And of course you find once you're playing honestly and talking about something truthfully, the inflections fall into place generally anyway. So that was the first excitement and first interest, because all of a sudden your emphasis is in a different area. It's in making it honest, making it real, and then later on perhaps going back and putting the technicals together, like how you want to phrase the speech, or what words you may want to emphasize, or or the point in the scene that you might want to build to. They're the technicals that you can add on later.
I had a lot of energy. I was fairly quick thinking and passionate about my work, and those things combined with youth probably let me get away with murder. But I was acting out of defensiveness, out of a kind of rage. I wasn't revealing consciously much about my inner self. I'm sure I was revealing a lot unconsciously, but things that I hadn't really come to know myself at all very well. I was imitative. I was still going for effects that I'd seen people like Olivia get away with, and I was going for the result rather than the process. I was floundering, and I felt most of all ill-equipped technically and vocally. I wanted to know, and there were crazy ideas. People would tell you ridiculous theories about breathing, for instance, about how you had to sort of be able to say 10 lines of verse on one breath, this sort of nonsense, you know, old-fashioned ideas about what acting, what speaking and breathing was about. And I wanted to sort of discover the truth about all of that. I was also terribly anxious to test the mythology that I'd grown up with. I'd grown up with Olivia and people on the screen. I wanted to see them in the flesh, and Gielgud and Richardson, all the famous actors I know of that generation, see what they were really like. Was English theatre really all it was cracked up to be? I wanted to go there and have a look. So all of those things took me away from Australia and wanted to start again.
Well, I'm lucky, I suppose, in a sense, and different to a lot of other actors in that it's performing is a long family tradition. It goes back about 4 generations on either side. So I can't remember first learning about it. I think I was trained from an early age to play piano and dance and sing and do all those things. As for formal acting, I think I just came to understand that it was about observation, and that by watching other people do it, I am hearing my parents' comments like, you know, trying too hard or over the top or things like that. I gradually realised that it was about peeling back, not adding. And because I'd always been encouraged to do the peripheral things around acting, I always found it fun. The things that I found difficult were playing the piano to people or dancing in front of people or singing in front of people, but actually saying lines seemed really easy. So I always was in a position at school, say, of being the obvious choice for the lead in anything. And so it was never something that I had to officially learn. The only real learning time came when I went to university. I went to Flinders in South Australia, and they tried to sort of pump me full of knowledge, most of which I forgot. The one thing that did stay with me, though, was said to me in orientation week. I wish I'd gone then. I got the most valuable thing out of the first week. But the professor said that it's a contract, that the audience fulfills its part of the contract by paying their money and allowing you to use their imaginations for 2.5 hours, and your part of the contract is to use their imaginations in a fulfilling way.
The accumulation of experience and training eventually create a reservoir of useful techniques for the actor. Most actors would agree that their range of techniques needs constant upgrading.
I think you need to be able to have some musical sense. I think you need to be able to move. Now, whether that's dancing or not is irrelevant, but you need to be in tune with your body. unless, you're only ever going to do close-ups. You need to have some understanding of the way you look and how to use the way you look. You need to have some understanding of how certain things make you look. You need to have some understanding of other actors that you're going to work with's work and the director's work. You need to be able to say, you shouldn't be unprepared. There's no excuse for walking onto a set and saying, "G'day, you're the director, how are you?" You've got to know what they're doing. You've got to know what they're like, because the more you know, the more you can give back.
Because my main job is to go out there and persuade the audience that this person is saying these things mint fresh for the first time. They happen to be brilliant or witty or clever, but he's just saying them because he needs to at that moment in time, and he has the resources to do it. They have to believe in the character's background and job and age and intelligence, all those things that enable him to say this particular piece of text. But if I were playing a restoration comedy, I'd have the same problem. If I were playing a Shakespearean character, I'd have the same problem. I have to somehow make that text sound like I'm talking it, not reciting it.
A lot has to do with you as a person and what affects you and what has affected you in your life, as to what you can use. If you've got a lot in your own background that you can call upon, you're lucky. I've got a lot to call upon. But sometimes the belief in the situation, belief in the play, can work. But I believe even that is coloured by your own background anyway. If it works and you think you're not working, then there's something within you that is working for you. But if it doesn't come freely, then there are certain techniques that you quickly pull out, like parallel situations that you know you will respond to, that may not be exactly what the play is about, but it's dead parallel, so that your reactions will be exactly what they should be for that situation, even though you may be thinking of something personal rather than the actual situation in the play.
I think you just listen to the other person, basically, as if for the first time. You don't know what they're going to say, so you pretend you don't know what they're going to say, and then you just listen. And if you listen hard enough, the result will happen. So it's not what it's reacting more than acting. And I think half of acting possibly is reacting.
Therefore, allowing yourself to believe in the moment-by-moment development.
To believe in the other character, and to suspend all knowledge of what's coming, and simply to react moment by moment to what is happening, so that that relaxation I talked about is so vital, that you've got to walk on stage like a blank page, a totally vulnerable thing that can be affected and shocked or hurt or pained, and that pain will be seen to register, and having received something, then you will give out a response.
A lot of people use emotion memory, and it's a very interesting technique.
What is it?
That's thinking back of something that's happened in your past and letting the memory of that emotion come through. And I think that's a good last resort technique, because you'll get it, but for that moment you are cutting yourself off. And I think it's always best, wherever possible, to keep the interplay going through a play. So if you can find something in the other person that can bring out the reaction, something within the situation, something that you can find and use that the other person's giving you, you can still get the same emotional reaction, or even as-ifs. That's a little, in quote phrase, as-ifs. You can look at somebody and just imagine that they're somebody else. But so you're still keeping contact with that person, but it's as if somebody else might be saying those words to you. So that you're
playing tricks with yourself.
Yes, you do. You do. But as long as the end result is what is meant to be from the play, and you know what to use within yourself to get that end result, is what's important.
Two terms, text and subtext, might need some explaining. The word text is often used instead of the script or dialogue, while subtext usually refers to the intended meanings which are not explicit in the dialogue. The English theatre tradition has for many years been dependent on the creative and subtle use of language as the dominant means of conveying the playwright's intention. The cinema, on the other hand, while reliant to some degree on dialogue, depends more on the use of image for communicating information.
I mean, at worst, I suppose, the English tradition does lead to sort of acting, in inverted commas, in a kind of mannered or a too elegant approach, but at the same time, just subtextual acting can become very self-indulgent and inward-looking, and ignore the audience and the text. I think one has to always reconcile both. Now, for instance, at the moment I'm doing a play, The Real Thing, at the Sydney Theatre Company, and it's a very articulate text. It's like being in a restoration comedy or a Noel Coward play. The text is that artificial and that elegant, and no one really speaks that well all the time, or that cleverly, or that wittily, not all the time, not even Tom Stoppard. But it's a modern contemporary play, and one has to give the impression of being a modern contemporary ordinary sort of person saying these things naturalistically. So what is called for is a reconciliation of those two extremes, to take a very elegant, well-constructed text and bring to it a psychological, subtextual approach that makes the text work. And it's always that correspondence of the two, so that playing that part I have to find in myself what relates to the things that the character is saying from my own experience. I've got to draw on my own experience, emotional memory, or if I haven't experienced what the character is going through, I've got to invent it or imagine what it might be like if I were in this situation.
Instinctively, the actor's approach to building a character begins from the moment he or she first reads the script. But from then on, the development of character is almost completely individual.
Certainly, if the role requires it, I'll go and do like official research. I'll talk to people who are like the character that I'm going to play.
Give me an example, if you could, of having to do that.
Well, for example, Fran. Fran is about a woman who has always been living in institutions or else a foster child. And I don't know anybody like that. So it was obviously to great advantage for me to meet people in that situation, which I did. And indeed, they quite substantially changed the approach that I would have had I not met them. And so again, it's to do with observation, but that observation you can either do passively or you can do actively, and by actually going out and making sure that you're in a position to observe. I do a lot of reading, particularly if it's a period piece. I'll do a lot of technical reading around, just to try and get the feel of it and to understand what it must have been like to be a person in the 40s, because a lot of people fall down by just being themselves in the 80s in a funny frock.
It's like playing a piece of music, I suppose. I'm not a musician, I don't know, but you learn the notes and you practice them, and you know that there's a crescendo there, or there's a quiet passage there or something, and so you go for that effect every night. And that's what rehearsals are for. You spend 5 weeks rehearsing for that very reason, so that you can reproduce, quite mechanically, an effect. As you go through the process of doing it, emotions surface, and you can feel the emotions again. But you're also in total control of what you're doing.
To prepare for a script, I just try and read it 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 until I can see something as rich in that as I can see in a life. Often you get 2 dimensions of a character and you have to provide the third. The best ones are when there are 3 dimensions already there on the page, and you just have to take it and make that person come to life. I just do a lot of talking, really. I just talk to people about things and try and find out what they want. Why is that being said there? What is the function of that? I suppose I come at it first as a director, thinking as a director, because I try and see how it's all going to be put together, and I like to try and script edit a little bit, and I've worked as a script editor, and I like to be able to say, this person doesn't need to say that because it's going to be there on the face. You don't have to be afraid of a moment's silence. Let's go take that away. So it's really a process of familiarising yourself with the project in all its details. A lot of actors don't like to do that. A lot of actors just say, show me my lines and wheel me on, and that's fine. That's the way they want to work. That's fine. But I just like to to have it knitted in my body and my mind, you know, and I can't do too much preparation. My scripts tend to, before shooting, tend to sort of be in crumpled pages at the bottom of my bag with lots of scribble all over them, to the point where you can barely see the dialogue anymore. Because each time I read it, after about the 10th time, every time I read it, something new suggests itself to me.
One of my ways in is to try and find a physical semblance first. When I was doing King Lear, I couldn't find a model for King Lear. And I couldn't think, well, I couldn't believe in this person. I thought, how can anybody of 80 years and more be that energetic or tough or ruthless or fiery? Who do I know like that? I looked around the streets of Sydney and there was nobody within cooee. If anybody was that age, they were, you know, cot cases, or they were sitting in wheelchairs or in the club or whatever. There was no one like that. And I really sort of took a long time to try and find somebody. Luckily, I was on holiday in Greece and we went to Crete, and there I suddenly found the kind of race that King Lear might have come from, all these aged Cretan farmers striding around in their boots and jodhpurs, and they were shepherds mainly, with their sheep and sitting in the tavernas and gambling and so on, and they were really tough, wizened old guys, patriarchs in the old-fashioned sense, and I thought, there's your King Lear material. And so I took a lot of photographs of them and sketches and studied them, and when I came to play the part, I modelled myself physically and in mannerism and physical energy on those old men I saw in Crete. On 3 or 4 particular ones, I noted them down and tried to look like them and behave like them, because that, for me, was a link with reality.
For the production studios to maximize efficiency, 2 one-hour episodes need to be produced every week, back to back. This production process can continue for up to 3 months. For the leading actors, this means arduously reading scripts and memorizing dialogue in the moments between rehearsals and performance.
You get a rough idea as you're reading through your part, initially on the weekend. I used to do it on the Saturday night. And as I'm reading through, that's when I'd plan what I wanted to do performance-wise for this particular week. And then the rest you kind of build into place as you're learning it, and then top it off when you're actually rehearsing. No, you don't top it off when you're rehearsing. You add a little extra when you're rehearsing, because then you get to know what the other actors are doing and work out what you can do between you. And then at night, when you're polishing off your learning and putting together your staging with your dialogue, which at home I usually set up a rough set in the kitchen or something and just walk it so that I can associate then the dialogue with the movement. And then you do that with each scene before going to bed and getting a little bit of sleep before getting up the next morning to do it.
But as you know, because it's all so quick and because it's all so out of sequence, I just feel like I have to have as many clues as readily available to me as possible. You know, if I'm in the middle of a tea break, they suddenly say, oh, we're suddenly going to scene 65 today because the weather's changed. You know, you have to be ready, and you have to be able to go, okay, scene 65, what was I going to do here? Oh, yes, right, this, that, and that, and that. And you're away. The other thing that I do, probably not so much on paper, but certainly in my mind for a film, is to make a graph of where I am emotionally at any given moment. And because certainly in a film, say, like Monkey Grip, where there's a lot of emotional lows and highs, you know, and there's about 5 crying scenes. Well, you can't do all the crying scenes the same way. You know, there's got to be one that is the peak of emotional upset, and you've got to leave yourself somewhere to go. So you can't suddenly go, oh, shit, scene 65, you know, I need to cry here. Yes, okay, glycerin. You know, you have to know why that person's cried, and most importantly, you have to know where the person's come from before the scene starts and where they're going to when the scene finishes. This is particularly important if you have a small part, because a lot of actors tend to think these 3 scenes are my only opportunity to get on this film, and you know, and I really waited for 10 years for this opportunity, and they tend to give everything they've got in those 3 scenes, and as a consequence they stand out like a sore thumb. You know, you have to be able to toss some of that away and truly come through that door with a sense of where you've just been. And if it is your only scene in the film, but you've just been for a 50-mile run, you're not going to come bursting in going, you know, you're going to come in exhausted. And you're going to be going somewhere after that scene's finished, which the audience may never see and they might not care less about. But you, as the performer and as that person, have to know what's going on next in that person's life, you know, and that's the only thing that gives you a through line. So you can't prepare too much in that sense.
There are a lot of people that work in television that think as long as you get on and say it naturally, that's the performance. Blah, it's not. And when you're working with somebody with that attitude, it's extremely frustrating because you know what the scene is capable of building toward, and you can try, but you know you can't build just from one side. But I've been lucky, I've worked with some good people, and you can get together and you can work out and phrase the scene, get little innuendos going where you can react back and forth, and like what I call a rubber band scene, you can just play and pull on your rubber band and you know they'll pull again, and gives you a little bit of tension to work from, and it can make a scene much more interesting because of that tension there, you're going to also grip the audience. If that's not there and it's just playing, you know, the audience may decide, oh, I might go make a cup of tea, and you can't blame them.
And finally, let's hear a few comments from actors about directors and directing. The potential of this relationship is largely dependent on the director's ability to understand each actor's different techniques and to be able to talk in the actor's language.
I think the worst thing a director can do is to show you how to do something, because that's totally inhibiting, and it makes most actors just clamp up, and they cannot then do it.
Personally, I don't like being on the set. I don't like being given a thesis about the story that we're doing, which is obviously the easiest way to talk emotions. And I understand why a lot of directors do it, and a lot of directors that don't understand it's a craft, that is what they start doing, is that you get the case history of the woman just before the first take. Now, I can't play a case history. I can't play that. I can only play an action. You know, the word is acting, and I can only play a verb. I don't want to be given adjectives. I don't want to be told that she's run down or she's uplifted, or I don't want a description of her, because that's what I'm doing. I'm giving that. And I like to be given an action. You know, even if it's just told to vacuum the floor. I'll probably give you a better performance if I say, yes, good, I'll vacuum the floor. I can do that, even though it might be unrelated to the emotional problem I'm doing.
It'd be better, though, to give you a psychological motivation than a physical activity, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, psychological motivation is the key if it can be done in verb form, as I said, and not in descriptive passages. Because you stand there politely for 10, 15 minutes saying, yes, understand, yes, understand, yes, and then he goes away and you think, but I can't play that, you know? And this is what directors don't understand, that there is a craft to talking to an actor.
I think directors shouldn't regard all actors as being the same, or working on the same time frame, having the same understanding, having the same kind of resilience or emotional reaction to the director. The director should spend some time researching his actors and knowing their methods of work, whether cajolery or flattery or boisterous good humour, what is the best approach to get to work with this particular person. And then when you're working with a group of actors, you've got to switch from one to the other, a bit like changing instruments, you know. You've got to sort of play on them all a bit differently to get the best response from each of them, and to so manage it that they coincide, so that when you say, right, we'll go, they're all ready to go at the same time. I think it's a terribly important thing.
In this episode, I want to look at the craft of acting from the teacher's point of view. Now, straight away, I want to dispel any expectation that what you will see leads to a precise definition of the actor's craft. On the contrary, what you will see is intentionally open-ended, the basis for discussion. Until the beginning of this century, anyone wanting to learn to act did so on the job, apprenticing themselves to an established actor. Today, there are many teachers offering a wide variety of courses and offering different techniques. Some concentrate on the text, highlighting the need for emotive articulation, while others concentrate on developing the actor's imagination and helping the actor to fantasize. Let's begin our exploration by asking one well-known teacher for a working definition. What is acting?
Acting itself, the way we use it and the point of departure for ourselves, is the simple ability to respond, or the ability is an important word here, the ability to respond to imaginary stimuli. Now, any human being that is healthy and alert can respond to real stimuli. By real stimuli, let's start with the senses. Anything you see and hear actually can create a response in you, if it's of a certain intensity and certain duration. The actor has to be able to imagine that, let's say, sensory stimulus and respond just as fully, organically, as if it were for real. Now here comes that ability to fantasize.
All right. Now, what happens is we give you a situation, okay, and at the end of the minute, or at some stage during the minute, one of you has to say the words, "I love you," right? And it's got to cost the person saying it an awful lot, and it's got to cost the person hearing it an awful lot. And it can be, "I love you," sexually, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, brother to sister, husband to wife, friend to friend, can be any sort of love, right? But it's got to cost the person saying it an awful lot and the person hearing it an awful lot. Got it? No? You will. You've got a minute to get it.
So what happens?
So we tell you who you are.
Oh, right, there's a few cute.
Now I'll give you the beginning, 30-second mark, 45-second mark, 55-second mark, then the minute. If it's not done in the minute, then that's okay. We're over. We get 2 more people up here.
Okay.
Okay, 1 minute. Starting from now.
That was a beautiful meal.
Thanks.
You're a good cook.
Nah, you're good company.
Suppose that helps. Man of many talents, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
We must do this again, you know.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
30 seconds.
It's getting late. I mean, no offense, I'm just conscious that I've got to get up really early. I feel a bit tired, been a long week. What?
There's something I want to tell you.
What?
I love you.
Okay.
There's a certain courage needed in being an actor because you have to be prepared to be vulnerable, to explore things and not know whether they're going to succeed or not, and to in fact do them almost in an unjudgmental way, to free yourself and to be able to leap off. And a great deal of what classes are about are giving people a way into understanding a technique that can support them to do that leaping off.
They're coming to learn a craft that's going to have some usefulness. In saying this, I am automatically negating certain other assumptions. One of the assumptions being they're coming for self-improvement. They're coming to solve personal problems. or they're coming to express themselves, or they're coming to have fun and games.
I'm not the one that's got a problem.
There are assumptions around which say that you are a born actor, you are born as an actor.
Every afternoon with Michael.
We assume that is patently false. What we say is that people are born with instinctual designs, and amongst these things we are born with is a capacity to fantasize. Now, we fantasize right off the bat without any learning, but we can be taught to fantasize in a more organized way, in a more structured way. That's built into people.
Yes, yes, yes!
A lot of the people come from amateur theaters or having been introduced to some aspect of creative theater at school, and they seem to believe that working in the lively arts is going to be an opportunity for them to say their thing, to make a statement, to do their thing, to get something off their chests, to show themselves off. I. And the toughest thing to gradually work around to is awareness that the focus of it all is what effect or what it is they are supposed to be doing to audiences. Or even if there isn't an audience there and they are performing, what it is they are doing to the other person. The little saying that goes around the school, and this is in jargon terms, but I'll have to translate it, is wherever possible, the object of your action should be your key motivator. Translated, it means, wherever possible, the thing you are doing things to should also contain the reasons you are doing things to them.
In their early classes, when students first consider the basic requirements for an actor, certain words invariably surface, like belief and truth. We're all capable of honest felt pretense or guileful behavior under certain circumstances. But what does the actor do to be able to act on cue?
Actors think they have to give a truth which the audience is looking for. So therefore, in their head and in their heart is, what can I do in that audience's terms that will make them believe me? So therefore, they're always trying to fulfill some sort of form. They're trying to hit a formula. And in centuries ago, there's even a book in the Performing Arts Bookshop now, which I tell actors to go and buy and then burn. And the first page is when you're in love, then a gesture like this might get that across. If you're greedy, then this might come into it. If you're scared, then, if there's 1,000 ways, gestures, that if you tell the audience, if you do the gesture, the audience will get it.
As we've heard, there was a time when acting was codified into gestures or signs, which might eventually be decoded or interpreted by the audience into meanings. The assumption was that the audience understood the code that the actor was using. The search for a more realistic form of acting emerged when writers like Ibsen, Strindberg, Chekhov and so on began writing plays with characters and dialogue which revealed an additional dimension, a psychological complexity. Around this time, whenever discussion turned to the teaching of acting, one name stood out, Konstantin Stanislavski. In 1898, Stanislavski formed the Moscow Art Theatre in association with Vladimir Danchenko. Their period of management was closely tied with the training of actors. Among the ideas Stanislavski introduced were observation of daily life as a source for ideas and improvisation as a means of exploring both the characters and the events in the play. The technical aspects of voice and movement were vital, but above all, the actor needed to develop his or her own imagination.
I was wanting them to explore the range of their voice and to try and create sounds that they may never have tried to make before, that they were able to also have an idea, an imaginative idea about what a sound might be, and then see physically whether their bodies could actually make it and work with it. Gently, I was starting to lead them towards a mixture of extending their bodies, but not just in a sort of a physical exercise way, but to do it with their mind, so that their mind was both inventing and controlling. I mean, but with all of these exercises, it's this feeling of being both in control and out of control at the same time that I'm trying to get them to experience and to be able to push themselves towards doing.
Feel the moment there, feel the moment there. Whether it be confusing or wonderful or inspirational or overjoyed or pathetic or confused or fearful, whatever it might be. Okay, now keep that moment and turn back to back.
In theatre, the choices have to be such that the audience are informed about what is happening on the space.
Start the scene from there, off you go.
Something has happened in the space physically that makes a statement, that rockets a message across the footlights. And that instinct of allowing the actor to give themselves a freedom to make those strong, bold statements.
Are you kidding?
When we get to film and television, all I can suggest to them is that the audience are just this far away from them. And by thinking as powerful as you would in the theatre, and by having as rich and as complex and in a monologue happening, nevertheless, it will be seen if you think it. Whereas on stage, if you think it, it won't be seen past the first few rows. You've got to think it, feel it, and let it out.
Stanislavski recognized the need for restraint in emotion, only portraying what was necessary moment by moment for the scene. He also felt that a character needed to be well-rounded, with all the virtues and vices of real human beings. He attempted to deconstruct and name the process of acting through his own experience as an actor, while adding his observations of other great actors. His most innovative concept was that of action. One's first thought is to associate the word with a physical activity, but this is not what he meant. What he meant was the naming of the character's motivation or purpose, moment by moment, through the play. He warned that the actor should not try to show feelings, but rather play the actions, and by doing so, create a believable illusion. Of paramount importance to Stanislavski was this concept of action.
In time, what they've got to learn is that these impressions that we give the audience, the illusions that we create for the audience, is really made up of a series of specific components. And these components, when cut together, very much as you will cut a film together, moment by moment by moment, will add up to a composite illusion that makes the audience believe we are a mechanic, we are a doctor. Now, these components have got to be handled very carefully, and one will not do instead of the other. In category terms, if we looked at a toolbox, we would see one compartment in that toolbox, which is, in fact, how one feels. What is one's attitude at this particular moment? Then, another compartment is what one then decides to do about what one feels, the deliberate deed. And the last compartment, you might say, is the form that either of these things take. How you feel takes on a certain body language form, and what you decide to do takes on a form. At the moment, what I'm doing is attempting to define a point. I'm using gesture, I'm using words, and certain words. I'm using my body sitting here in a certain postural way. This is the formal design whereby I'm attempting to communicate. If I attempted to communicate, so consequently the formal design is very important in the attempt to formalize my intention. When actors begin to see these things, they then begin to unclutter, because so often they have ignored the one essential thing, which is the kingpin in the toolbox, the largest compartment in the toolbox, the deliberate intention. So often an actor wants to jump from psyching himself into a feeling immediately into a formalization. This is therefore what the feeling does in expressing itself, and neglects that interim step, which is really what it's all about. What are we trying to do to each other or to the thing we are operating with? The deed, the willful deed, the awareness that there is such a component in acting, the willful intention. We have a jargon name for it, we call it action. That there is such a thing as an action, first of all, is an eye-opening discovery to a lot of people, and then it's a confrontation to quite a number of them in time, because they realize that while they do this in everyday life, while we're awake, we're always playing actions. We're always alert to what it is we're trying to achieve. And yet, when one tries to do it synthetically, as it were, with an audience looking over our shoulders, or a camera peering into our soul, as it were, we become uptight, and the things that function freely in life, we find we are cramped about.
Most teachers of acting agree that certain acting tasks are of fundamental importance. Consequently, the learning and refining of these skills is given special priority. For example, let's look at the time of change. This is when a character considers changing his or her purpose or action in a scene. Usually this occurs when the character receives new or unexpected information. It presents a challenge for the actor to sustain believability.
The way I get actors to do that is I use a rolled-up sock, covered just in material and sewn up, and then I get the actors to use that as a stimulus.
I don't think that you really understood.
All right. Understood? Understood.
If you're gonna play dumb all the time, you can just go to hell.
If I'm gonna play dumb all the time, I could just go to hell. Fucking who do you think you are?
You really surprise me sometimes, you know? You really, really surprise me.
Of course, I surprise you.
Oh, stop it.
Why?
Because I'm telling you.
You're telling me.
All right.
Just to make sure the actors don't ignore what's coming in from somebody else. Because actors get so worried about themselves. Am I being truthful? Is it real? How do I feel? Whereas if you put the onus off yourself and say, listen to somebody else, what are they giving me? Then suddenly it gets much easier. That's what we do in life. But in acting, suddenly it all comes onto ourselves and we get panicked. I think I've said it before, that playing for an objective is playing for a change in the other person's eyes. You know, and that allows you to, rather than it being an intellectual thing, it starts to make it a living thing between you and somebody else. And once you get that appetite and that instinct alive for taking in somebody else's energy and transforming that energy and giving it back to them, once that circular motion starts to happen, then that's the true craft of acting. Okay, see you Thursday.